Welcome to Start With Your Customer. In today's presentation, we're going to talk about how you define a target or ideal client. My name is Lorraine Ball and I'm a marketing strategist, and I firmly believe that every company has a target audience. And yes, your product or service may have wide appeal, but that you will go bankrupt trying to market to everyone, that you will be significantly more successful if you define your target. I've honed this belief in 16 years of running my company, as well as 20 years in corporate prior to that. The secret to your success is finding your target customer. You need to find your target customer and do it by segmenting the marketplace, dividing people into buckets, people most likely to buy and people less likely to buy, so that you can focus your energy and your attention on the people most likely to buy. There are a number of different ways that you can divide your market. You can divide people based on demographics, age, income. When it comes to B2B, that is size of company or age of company and types of industries that they work in. You can segment the audience on psychographics, on buyer behavior, how often they use the product, where they are in their lifestyle. You can look at the marketplace based on market potential and identify companies who are more likely to be able to afford your services. You can look at your existing best clients and look at the characteristics that they share in common and use that to define your perfect client. However you slice and dice your market, at the end of the day, you want to create a relevant position statement that makes sense to them. So why segment? Well, I've already talked about that, but the bottom line is that not everybody is going to be interested in your product or service. I know that you would like to believe that, but the truth is that even if you sell something as basic as soap or crackers, there are people who will buy your product and people who won't. Now, defining someone as a part of your target audience or not does not change who you will sell to. For example, if you survey women 35 and older, odds are very few of them drink real Coke. But you'll find quite a few in that audience who drink Diet Coke. Now, if one of those women walks into a convenience store and says, "I'd like a Coke, please," the man behind the counter is not going to say, "I'm sorry you can't have one." He's going to say $1.29, have a nice day. Coke is more than happy to have people buy their product, but they are not going to spend money advertising Coca-Cola on the pages of We or Elle or Oprah magazine. They're not going to advertise on Lifetime television. It doesn't make any sense because the people consuming that media aren't going to buy the product. So you can define your market and recognize that you may attract other people, but focus your energy on your segment. Let's take a look at demographic segmentation and how it works. This is an example of how you might approach demographic segmentation for a consumer product. You might think about characteristics such as age, gender, income, lifestyle. It might even look at geographic area and benefits that they are seeking. So for example, looking at the soap market. This is a national market, so the geographic area is not important. But for example, Ivory Soap, their target clients are women aged 25 to 40. The characteristic that they share most often is that they're moms, because Ivory Soap is the kind of soap new moms use for their babies. Their lifestyle revolves around the family, and the reason that they buy Ivory is because it's the purest soap. There are not a lot of perfumes that would create allergic reactions in those newborn babies. Comparing that to a product like Oil of Olay or Dove that appeals to an older woman, maybe 35 to 60, slightly more affluent because this is a more expensive product than Ivory, and the kind of things this woman is likely to be doing might be heading to lunch with her friends, going out shopping, lots of socializing. And why is she buying Oil of Olay? She's buying Oil of Olay for the moisture. She's buying Oil of Olay because it's youth in a bottle. It's going to make her skin look younger and healthier because of that moisture. Looking at Axe, this is definitely a product targeted at men. Here it says 18 and up. I would argue it's actually more like 13 to 25. Definitely men, lots of students, white collar, things that these guys do in their spare time. They're active, they're going out, they're playing sports. Why? Why do they want Axe soap? Because they're going to smell good. Because after a hard day of playing, they can take a shower. And why do they want to smell good? Well, the real benefit is they want to attract the girl. Compare that to the segment D, which is really the target for Lava soap. Slightly older, still men, more blue collar, or what I would call blue collar hobbyists. Guys with white collar jobs who work on cars and like to get dirty on the weekend. They enjoy NASCAR, they enjoy hunting and sports, and the reason that they use Lava is because it cleans grease. A lot of people don't realize this, but Lava soap was actually created by the company that makes WD-40. It's absolutely brilliant marketing. They create a product that is in every garage in America and is used day in and day out by people who enjoy working on cars and doing home repairs. The one downside of the product is that you get your hands dirty and it just won't wash off. And then they design and introduce the only soap that will. So you've got these 4 different segments, and we're talking about soap. We're talking about something as basic as soap. But the truth is that even that market can be divided and divided. And so what good is this information? Well, once you know who your target customer is, now you can begin thinking about, well, how do I reach this customer? Well, Ivory, putting it sample soap in new mom kits, advertising Oil of Olay in Oprah magazine, offering free samples in a campus welcome package for Axe, and becoming the official sponsor of NASCAR makes sense for Lava. And so here's what you see. You see 4 products in essentially the same category, going after dramatically different customers, and as a result, building a marketing message and a value proposition that is unique to the segment they're going after. You can do this same thing with business-to-business products and services. You can focus on elements like the size of a company, the industry they're in, who their customers are, and what they're trying to accomplish. And again, based on those elements, identify which networking groups you're going to go to, which trade publications you might advertise in, the kind of offers and demonstrations you might make on social media. One of the things and one of the traps that you can fall into when you're doing just demographic segmentation is to think about people as if they were the same. The truth is that they're not. Let me give you an example of how 2 men who appear on paper to be exactly the same really aren't. Consider for a moment these two brothers. You look at them, they're actually twins. You would think, well, they would be very similar. They both went to law school. They're both happily married. So again, on paper, these guys look exactly the same. They lead active lifestyles. You think you could market to them exactly the same. But imagine for a moment that the brother on the left is married to his high school sweetheart. His youngest child is in her third year in college. He's thinking about possibly retiring or starting a second career. He's thinking about taking long vacations, finally going on that European trip, and trading in whatever he's driving for that cute little Audi two-seater. The guy on the right is also married, but it's his second wife. And she has it's his second wife, his much younger second wife. And she's just told him that she's pregnant. And so suddenly he's not thinking about retiring. He's thinking about trading in his sports car for a minivan. And the only vacations he's thinking about are trips to Disneyland. And so this is where psychographics really help you build a picture of a target customer that goes well beyond just what they look like. It addresses lifestyle. It can address things like their usage habits. How many times a year do they use your product? How many times do they need refills or changes or updates? What do they think about your product? Not everybody who buys your product or service loves it. And so focusing your message, are you going to focus on the core group of customers who really love you, or are you going to focus on those people who kind of use it but aren't sure that they're not really committed? These are serious marketing decisions, and they will impact how you write your messaging depending on who you're talking to. You also need to think about buying cycle and seasonal consumption. And with that, I mean, how long does your product last? And when somebody is ready to buy, how long do they kind of stay in buying mode? When I worked in the heating and air conditioning business, one of the challenges was that when an air conditioner breaks, people are in the market 2 to 3 days max. And so that really doesn't give you a lot of time to create that impression and make your sales pitch and build loyalty. And so your marketing has to be about all of the things that you do leading up to that moment and all the things you do during the sales process. When I mentioned that you need to think about market potential, what I'm referring to is, can you earn enough from one segment to really make it worthwhile? For example, how big is the total market? If you've decided that you are going to target homeowners between the ages of 25 and 35 living in these 3 zip codes, how many people are there that fit that characteristic? If you've decided that you're going to only direct your message to left-handed women, are there enough in that market? And then you can go too narrow. You can sell 100% of that market, but if it's not big enough to sustain your business, it's not going to work. So how big is the total market? How often will a customer who fits your demographic buy? In a community of 100,000 homeowners, odds are that if you figure that the average furnace lasts about, let's say, 10 years, in theory, if there are 100,000 homeowners, then 10,000 of them will need a new furnace every year. If you figure that furnaces last 15 years, only about 8,500 will need a new furnace every year. Is that enough? And now you need to look at, well, I'm not going to get 100% of the business. What percentage can I get, or what percentage do I need to make my business sustainable? How much is the average sale? If the average sale is $500, I need a lot of them. If the average sale is $5,000, I don't need quite as many. How often will a customer buy, and how many customers do you need? And when you start putting these numbers together, that's going to tell you, have you defined a reasonable target client? Are you going too narrow or too broad? Another way of looking at your market, and this is one of my favorite activities, is really focusing on your best clients. And I would do two things. First, I would take all of your clients and look at them, kind of list them on a piece of paper, and then circle your 5 favorite clients. What do they have in common? What is it that you loved about doing business with them? And if there's enough commonality, now you can begin building a profile of your target. But one thing I want you to caution you about is clients fall kind of on this continuum. You're going to have opportunities that are too small. These are the customers that really can't spend enough with you because their budget just isn't there. And one of the things that I see with a lot of early stage companies is they try to bend over backwards and water down their service offering so they can do business with clients that are really too small, not recognizing that these really small clients suck the lifeblood out of you. They take way more of your time, and there's not enough return. The acceptable clients are really that bare minimum. Anything below this, a project that is not this big, a customer that is not in a position to spend X or Y dollars, is too small, but if they cross over this line, this is an acceptable client. We will work with them. The typical is kind of your average client, and ideal is really where you want to get to. Maybe you have 1 or 2 clients that are already in that ideal range. And your mission should be to create a profile of a target customer, not to match what is typically what you're doing business with now, but to match your ideal, to match the kind of companies you want to do business with. And then on the other side, you need to also look at the ones that are too large. You need to look at the companies that, although they are offering you an opportunity to do a giant project, they may be too big. There may be too many demands and requirements, and taking a client here that is too large for you or too complex may be as dangerous to your long-term survival as a client that is too small. Ideally, you want to be within the acceptable and ideal barriers, cutting off the people who are too small and politely turning down the ones that are too large. The next thing you can do is find other companies that you can partner with that work in your industry, and maybe work on either sides of that fence and create referral relationships that allow you to focus on your sweet spot. And then you need to work on a position statement. And the purpose of a position statement is to clarify in words what it is you do and who you do it for. So who is your ideal client? You've been spending some time thinking about it. Now you need to think about, what are their pain points? What are the things that keep them up at night? I was working with a client once, and he was an insurance provider. He ran an insurance company, and he said, you know what? My clients want more choices. And I looked at him and I said, really? Tell me, how many of them are laying awake at night thinking to themselves, God, I wish I had more insurance choices? The reality is they aren't. They are concerned about their insurance. They're concerned about the rising costs. They're concerned about a lot of things. If you can figure out what the most important thing for them and what their biggest concern is, you have a better chance of convincing them that you are absolutely the right company to solve their problem. Because at the end of the day, they will hire you if they believe that you understand their pain and you have a solution. As you write your position statement, you can also take some time and look at your competitors. Think about your target customer, how you define what you do. Think about both your expertise and your weaknesses, and then take a good look at your competitors and figure out not only where do you fit, but what sets you apart. One of the things, well, there are several things that we pride ourselves on. We feel very strongly about strategy. We feel very strongly about being responsive to our clients and having that very personal interaction. As we look at some of our competitors, some of them have more technical expertise, and they build very complicated websites. We build a product that we think our clients can handle. And so that's a point of difference. It's not a matter of better or worse. It is different. We are serving different markets. If you look exactly like all of your competitors and you can't find anything that sets you apart, neither will your prospective customers. And so you need to start writing. Who is your target customer? What do they want? And how do you help them? An example, and I'll give you ours. For Roundpeg, we like working with early stage 2 companies, businesses with 2 to 100 employees in service industries, whether professional services, home services, or retail and restaurant. These particular companies tend to be large enough that they know they need to invest in marketing, but not large enough to have full-time marketing staffs working for them. And so they don't have the expertise. And so we help them by giving them control of their marketing, by teaching them the things they need to know, by offering them the opportunity to do it themselves or hire us to do it. This philosophy, this position statement then forms the fundamental basis that you take to the marketplace as you present who you are to customers. Another way of thinking about this is to build a persona, to take that target customer and make them real. Give them a name, give them a picture, talk about what's important to them. This is a different version of a persona, and here you see, again, pictures and hobbies. You see some things about their technology and some of their apps. Here you see some of the brands that this guy is interested in. In each case, this person is representative of a much larger community. But by putting a name and a face, it's easier to create marketing that talks to that person. And personas can exist in B2B environments as well. Here, Fred is the he's a manager and he's a marketing and sales director. He works for a much larger organization. You can see industries that he works in. You can see where he gets his information and what's important to him. Every industry can use personas and construct position statements that are relevant to these customers. All you need to do is think about who your customers are. Think about what you already know about them. Think about what their pain points are and how you help. As you do this, you will be prepared to develop marketing that is relevant and will resonate with your target customer. Questions? If so, I would love to hear from you.